There's no more iconic game series than Super Mario. In the 40 years since Super Mario Bros., we have gotten more than 200 different Mario games, but only a little more than 20 main series games. That is what we're going to take a look at today. If you want to get right into the ranking, go to the timestamp on screen, because I'm going to explain a little more about how I made this list and what won't be on it. I will only be ranking the main series games. No Mario Party, Mario Kart, RPGs, etc. I won't be including remakes or remasters, like the Super Mario Advance series or the Super Mario 64 DS. I also am not going to be including the Mario Maker games just because it's hard to rank them since they are sandbox games with creator-made adventures and level creation tools. With that said, let's get into the ranking. Number 21, Super Mario Run. For a mobile game, this is pretty fun, but the key phrase there is for a mobile game. It's fairly limited and all you really do is tap the screen to make Mario jump, which makes it less interactive compared to the other mainline Mario titles. It's a fun time waster for a little while, but it doesn't offer much beyond that. Given that it's a mobile game, it's understandable that it doesn't have the depth of the console titles, but I found it enjoyable for maybe 30 minutes at most before it started to feel repetitive and boring. Number 20, Super Mario Land. The first handheld entry in the main series, Super Mario Land, is a fun game, but it's aged arguably worse than even the original Super Mario Bros. Since it was an early Game Boy title, it's fairly limited in scope. The platforming doesn't feel as solid as in other entries, which really affects the overall gameplay. That said, it's still creative, and there are a lot of new enemies and worlds to explore. However, when compared to the other games in the series, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the ones higher up on this list. 19. Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. The reason the Lost Levels is at 19 is because of how ridiculously hard it is. I enjoy a good challenge in Mario games, but this one really takes it too far. In fact, this was why we got a different version of Super Mario Bros. 2. Nintendo believed the Lost Levels would be too difficult for American audiences. When you combine that with some of the elements that haven't aged well from the original game, it ends up lower on my list. I enjoy playing it every now and then, but the game's intense difficulty, paired with the outdated physics from the first game, can make it frustrating to play for extended periods. Number 18, Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. I know a lot of people would have ranked the Mario Land titles higher, and I totally get why. But for me, I just couldn't get into them like I could the other Super Mario titles. 6 Golden Coins does address a lot of the issues from the first game, offering a more complex experience and a much better visual presentation. However, since this list is ranked based on how much I personally enjoyed each game, I just couldn't place it higher. It's a good game, but the Game Boy Mario titles haven't aged as well as the others on this list. Number 17, New Super Mario Bros. 2. The first modern game on this list that's on a console, New Super Mario Bros. 2, isn't a bad game by any means, but I really wasn't a huge fan of it. I'd already played through the prior 2 games in the series and enjoyed them a lot. This entry didn't bring much new to the table, aside from an obsession with coins. After finishing it, the experience didn't stick with me as much as its predecessors. I found the levels to be uncreative, even by new Super Mario Bros. Standards, and the game felt too easy. Like the game before it on this list, New Super Mario Bros. 2 represents an extreme on the difficulty spectrum, which I'm not a fan of in 2D games. In 3D games, a slightly easier experience can be more forgivable depending on the level design. But in 2D, when the game is both too easy and uncreative, it really hampers the experience. One thing I will say though, is that the Impossible DLC pack was super fun. It's more challenging than much of the Lost Levels, but with better variety, improved controls, and a quicker pace, unlike the marathon that the Lost Levels can feel like. 16. Super Mario Bros. 2. Stylistically, Super Mario Bros. 2 is not a traditional Mario game, but it's still a very enjoyable one. It introduced recurring Mario characters like Birdo and Shy Guy, and shook up the 2D platforming formula. There's more vertical levels, more variation from stage to stage, and 4 playable characters, each with different abilities. This game stands out in a series that often follows similar formulas, so it's nice to see something different. However, personally, I still prefer the more traditional formula of the first game, which is why I've ranked it just one spot higher. 15. Super Mario Bros. On some other lists, various factors might push this game higher, but when comparing my personal enjoyment of it to other titles, it drops to 15. Super Mario Bros. Released 7 years before I was born, so I didn't get to experience it when it first came out. My first Mario games were on the N64 and GameCube, consoles with vastly superior hardware compared to the NES. While I still consider Super Mario Bros. A great game, I don't have the same nostalgia for it as others do. That said, we can't overlook how it laid the groundwork for an entire genre. The main factors holding it back are the natural limitations of being such an earlier pioneer of 2D platforming.
clunkier physics, fewer features compared to later games, and a more basic design compared to its successors. That's why it lands at number 15.
Number 14. New Super Mario Bros. U.
New Super Mario Bros. U is still a really fun time. I just couldn't find a higher spot for it.
There are things I love about this game, like its beautifully designed world map, the visuals, and the power-ups. But the reason it's ranked lower than two other games in the New Super Mario Bros. Series is simply that I enjoyed those more. I thought Luigi U was the better game since it was tougher and more creative. As for New Super Mario Bros. U, it feels like an easier version of New Super Mario Bros. Wii with the fresh coat of paint and doesn't bring many new concepts to the table. When I first played the Wii version, I couldn't put the controller down and finished it in one sitting. I certainly enjoyed New Super Mario Bros. U on the Wii U, but it felt more like an easier version of the same game. 13. Super Mario 3D Land. 3D Land is basically a 3D version of New Super Mario Bros. And while that doesn't make it a bad game, it just doesn't feel as grand as the other 3D Mario games. Most levels are well designed, but only a handful stood out as truly memorable. The 3D gimmick was a neat idea, but in my opinion, it didn't really add much to the gameplay outside of a few challenge rooms. I also found the soundtrack pretty underwhelming. Good, but nothing that stuck with me. Most Mario games have incredible soundtracks with tons of memorable tunes, but 3D Land just doesn't stand out in that department. Overall, 3D Land is a fun game that every Mario fan should play, but it lacks that spark to place it higher on this list. Number 12. New Super Mario Bros. DS. This game, along with the next, is pretty interchangeable in my ranking. They're that close. I've gone back and forth on these, but I think placing New Super Mario Bros. DS here is the right choice. It was one of the first games I played back in 2006, alongside Mario 64 DS. I have an immense amount of nostalgia for it, but I just couldn't rank it higher. This was the first 2D Mario game in over a decade and introduced a lot of series mainstays, like the Mega Mushroom, Poison Jungles, new enemies, and a revamped Toad House system. Despite the DS's limitations, Nintendo did an amazing job with this game, making it a solid return to 2D Mario. My main criticism is that many of the levels are simpler than some of the other entries, though they're still well designed, with some, like the final castle, standing out as more intricate. Number 11. New Super Mario Bros. Wii. New Super Mario Bros. Wii just edges out its DS counterpart, mainly due to a few key factors: more well-designed levels, new power-ups like the Ice Flower, Penguin Suit, and Propeller Mushroom, the multiplayer experience, and of course, the final battle, arguably the best in the series, as noted in our Mario boss fight ranking. Number 10. Bowser's Fury. I'm not sure if this is technically a mainline game, but I wanted to include it. Packaged with Super Mario 3D World on the Switch, many probably expected it to be just a side mode, but it's actually its own full-fledged game. One of the biggest drawbacks, and the reason it's not ranked higher, is its short length, but I enjoyed almost every second of it. Bowser's Fury gives us the closest thing to an open-world Mario game. While we've had Odyssey, Sunshine, and 64, which feature large open areas, they're all divided into distinct levels. In contrast, Bowser's Fury takes place on a connected map, offering a more continuous experience. It might not be the traditional Mario world you expect, but Nintendo clearly puts a lot of care into the design of the different islands. Beyond the game's length, my biggest complaint is that many of the cat shines feel repetitive, but to be fair, there are a lot to collect in a relatively short journey. So my opinion might shift when I remake this video in the future, maybe with Super Mario Odyssey 2 in 2031. But for now, the boss fights alone, like Giant Cat Super Saiyan Mario vs Giga Bowser Deluxe, are just amazing. Number 9. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The most recent game on this list, Super Mario Wonder, marks the first non-New Super Mario Bros. 2D Mario platformer since Super Mario Land 2 in 1992. I loved the first two New Super Mario games, and the next two were alright, but as I mentioned earlier, they just became too stale. It felt like every game was the same with a new coat of paint. Super Mario Wonder feels completely different, with a brand new art style, fresh power-ups, and a badge system that adds another layer to the gameplay. It feels like a brand new adventure. One of my biggest complaints with the new Super Mario games was that every single entry had the exact same worlds: grasslands, desert, tundra, beach, and so on. While Wonder shares many of the same themes, it doesn't feel repetitive. The designs are completely new, and the level layouts are much more creative. It's like going from Sticker Star to the original Paper Mario. Even though many worlds share the same basic themes, the content itself makes them stand out. I loved Wonder and can't wait to see where Nintendo goes next. It doesn't need to be Wonder 2. They could follow the same innovative route and create another completely new experience.
With so many fresh ideas and wonder, I'm sure some were scrapped, but could return in future games. Number 8. Super Mario 3D World. Super Mario 3D World is stylistically similar to Super Mario 3D Land, in that its levels are designed in a straightforward, linear fashion, and it plays like a 2D Mario game in a 3D space. While the game can feel more restrictive and less inventive compared to other 3D Mario titles, it proves that a commitment to linear level design can still yield fantastic results. It improved upon nearly every aspect of 3D Land and added a wealth of new concepts, including new enemy types, level hazards, and platforming challenges, especially when compared to 3D Land. The boss fights are phenomenal, more intricate and unique. The game also features a much more memorable soundtrack, with a jazzy style that helps 3D World carve out its own identity in the Mario franchise. Number 7. Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine is one of the more divisive entries in the Mario series, especially after its re-release in the 3D All-Stars collection. Admittedly, it's not as polished as most other mainline Mario games. There are some occasionally clunky movement physics and glitches, and certain level sections can feel unfairly difficult. That said, Mario's movement, while sometimes a bit too quick, is incredibly fun and satisfying. The combination of FLUDD and new movement options, like the ability to slide on wet surfaces, turns Isle Delfino and its areas into playgrounds for Mario to explore. The game brings back the open sandbox-style gameplay from Super Mario 64. And while certain challenges can feel too difficult or unpolished, the level design is stellar. The worlds are a blast to jump, hover, and slide through, and there are many memorable locations. What makes Sunshine stand out is its unique theme. A unified tropical atmosphere, new characters, and NPCs, plus an entirely new moveset thanks to FLUDD. The game also takes great advantage of the GameCube controller's analog triggers, giving players full control over the FLUDD device, enhancing the overall experience. Number 6. Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario Bros. 3 stands as my second favorite 2D Mario game, only behind the next entry on this list. It's inventive, unique, and incredibly appealing, both in its visuals and music. It offers phenomenal level design, tight controls, and a fantastic variety of power-ups. It also revolutionized the series by introducing the world map, which replaced the series of disconnected levels from prior games. This map made the worlds feel more cohesive and allowed for more player agency, letting you bypass certain levels, visit toad houses, and play mini-games to earn extra power-ups. The game also introduced the item inventory, allowing players to store items gained through toad houses and mini-games for use between levels. This gave players the opportunity to strategize before tackling more challenging levels. Overall, Super Mario Bros. 3 delivers one of the greatest 2D platforming experiences in Mario's history. Number 5. Super Mario World. My all-time favorite 2D Mario game, Super Mario World, takes everything that made Super Mario Bros. 3 great and builds on it, while also introducing a wealth of new features, enemies, and gameplay elements. One of the standout improvements is the world map, which is now fully connected and cohesive, replacing the more segmented maps of Super Mario Bros. 3. The item storage system was also reworked. Instead of selecting from a list between levels, you could store one extra item within a level that you could activate at any time. While limiting the number of items you could store to one, this change streamlined the system and allowed players to have a backup item on hand. The level design is fantastic, with longer, more intricate levels packed with secrets. There's more exploration than ever before, with multiple secret exits leading to hidden levels and shortcuts. And of course, Super Mario World introduced Yoshi, Mario's companion, who not only added new platforming mechanics, but also gave players a fresh way to tackle enemies. Number 4. Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 was the groundbreaking title that launched the 3D Mario games and laid the groundwork for many great titles that followed. Despite its clearly dated visuals, which still hold a certain charm for many, including me, occasionally clunky physics, and an often frustrating camera system, this game has aged surprisingly well overall. Its level design remains excellent, featuring large open areas that perfectly balance exploration and 3D platforming sequences. The controls are tight, and there's something immensely satisfying about building momentum with the long jump and dive. The music is fantastic, the environments are varied and memorable, and Peach's Castle is one of the best hub worlds in Mario history. Discovering secret worlds and unlocking new areas of the castle is thrilling. And even if you've played through the game dozens of times and know all the secrets, Super Mario 64 still holds up. I think 64 and Odyssey are incredibly close in my ranking. While Odyssey is undoubtedly the more polished and complex game, I still find 64 to be more enjoyable in some ways. The sense of accomplishment from collecting a star in 64 is far more rewarding than collecting a moon in Odyssey, and also 64 is a more difficult game. On the subject of the DS version, even though I'm not ranking remakes, it's worth mentioning that Super Mario 64 DS adds a lot of content, including 3 new characters, Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario. It also includes 30 new stars as well. The big flaw, however, is the control scheme. The original 64 famously used the analog stick, but the DS lacked this feature, which is quite noticeable today. Whether you prefer the original 64 or its DS counterpart, one thing is clear. A Switch 2 version of Super Mario 64 with updated visuals and new creative uses for the additional characters would be fantastic, as both versions now feel dated. Number 3. Super Mario Odyssey. When I last did a Mario ranking about 5 years ago, I actually ranked Super Mario 64 higher than Odyssey. Since then, my opinion has changed. This game came out of nowhere, which, at this point, shouldn't be surprising when it comes to Nintendo. Like many other Mario fans, I wasn't expecting a new sandbox Mario game with huge areas and lots of opportunities for exploration anytime soon, if ever. The formula for 3D Mario had been trending more linear, offering superbly designed levels and generally successful games. That said, Odyssey demonstrates just how incredible the sandbox style can be. It boasts masterful world design, expansive explorable areas, tons of unique enemies, NPCs, and locales, along with a highly satisfying movement system. Mario controls incredibly smoothly, and thanks to his new companion Cappy, his moveset is expanded to offer more options than ever. The game is immediately accessible and intuitive, but for those who dive deeper, it allows for complicated sequences and creative platforming challenges. The number of moons to collect is staggering, but the game balances this by making moons generally quicker to find than stars from previous 3D Mario titles. Plus, unlike older games where you'd return to the hub world after collecting a star, Odyssey lets you continue your adventure exactly where you left off. There's so much to do in this game, and while the base game is pretty easy, aside from Darker Side, the fan-made challenges help balance it out. Odyssey is one of the most memorable Mario experiences, and now that nostalgia has set in since my first playthrough, it's earned its place at number 3 on my list. Now, Nintendo, please give us Odyssey 2 for the Switch. It's been almost 8 years since Odyssey, and while Bowser's Fury was a cool side adventure, it's not a full 3D Mario game. Number 2, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Here we are, the top 2. At this point, you've probably guessed what they are, especially if you've seen my earlier video ranking my favorite games of all time. It's a close call between these two, but Super Mario Galaxy 2 claims the runner-up spot. It improved upon so much of what made the first Galaxy great, and it made better use of the Wii Remote's IR pointer controls than perhaps any other game on the system. Controlling Yoshi, one of the key additions to the game, felt incredibly smooth and satisfying. Aiming his tongue using the pointer worked surprisingly well, and the platforming challenges that made use of this ability and the new Yoshi power-ups were a blast. Galaxy 2 is often hailed as a masterclass in level design, featuring some truly exciting platforming sequences with a perfect blend of challenge and intuitiveness. That said, I place it below the original Super Mario Galaxy because of its more linear design choices. While the first Galaxy struck a great balance between linearity and openness, Galaxy 2 leans more heavily into linearity. The hub world of the Comet Observatory is replaced by the much smaller Starship Mario, and instead of the large domes that connected the observatory to the levels, Galaxy 2 uses a simple world map. The levels themselves are more linear too, with fewer open areas. Some might argue this streamlining improved the game, but I found it made the experience less immersive. That said, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is still a phenomenal game, making brilliant use of the gravity shifting mechanic from the first title. It features memorable levels, new power-ups, stunning graphics that still look amazing even 15 years later, one of the best soundtracks in gaming history, and some of the most impressive uses of the Wii's controls and hardware. Number 1, Super Mario Galaxy. This is where the magic happens. Super Mario Galaxy isn't just the best Mario game. It's one of the best games ever made and one of my all-time favorites. From the first moment you launch into space, you feel like you're playing something truly special. It took the tried and true formula of 3D Mario and completely reinvented it, introducing gravity mechanics that have become iconic and revolutionary for platformers. The world design is spectacular, with gravity-defying platforms, spherical worlds, and a level of creativity that was simply unheard of at the time. The gravity mechanic in particular is a stroke of genius. It allows for dynamic and unique level designs that felt fresh, engaging, and challenging in ways previous 3D Mario games hadn't. The game introduces Rosalina, whose role adds a touch of elegance and emotional depth that we hadn't seen in the Mario universe before. The music is nothing short of breathtaking. The Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack is widely regarded as one of the best in video game history, with orchestral pieces that elevate the game's otherworldly charm. Each track fits perfectly with the atmosphere of the levels, creating a truly immersive experience that pulls you deeper into the galaxy. The hub world, the Comet Observatory, is another brilliant design choice. Less a static menu and more a living, breathing environment that you explore while unlocking new levels and secrets. In terms of gameplay, Galaxy combines tight controls, clever platforming, and a fantastic sense of progression. Each level offers a fresh twist on the formula, whether it's shifting gravity, rotating platforms, or new power-ups. The difficulty curve is well balanced, challenging yet fair, and the final challenges are incredibly rewarding. It's a game that blends the feeling of exploration with the precision of platforming, all while telling a surprisingly emotional story of growth, adventure, and discovery. For me, Super Mario Galaxy is the pinnacle of the series. It brought everything I loved about Mario: innovative mechanics, fun platforming, a captivating world, and a sense of wonder, and wrapped it all in a truly unforgettable package. It's the Mario game that made me feel like a kid again, and that's why it holds the top spot. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Do you agree with my list? Or are you grabbing your pitchforks ready to come after me because I ranked a game too low? Either way, let us know in the comments, but please keep it respectful. Thanks again to everyone who watched, and if you like this, please subscribe, like, and share with all your friends. It helps a ton. And if you're looking to join a community of active video game fans, check out our official Game Domain Discord. The link is in the channel's About page. This has been ND with Game Domain.